Welcome back to Inspires Radio, where we challenge limiting beliefs, break through mental barriers, and we help you move from potential to purpose through mindset elevation. Let's go. Man, I'm excited about this episode. I'm your host, Coach Sam Tolbert, and today we're going to be diving into the topic centered around habits. All right. I think this is a topic worth exploring. All right. So I'm excited about today's episode. So I want to pose a question before we really get started, dive into this conversation. Are your habits holding you back? Now, the truth is, most people don't realize this, but success isn't about one time decisions, right? It's about small daily habits, and also these habits shape your reality. If you've been feeling stuck, unproductive, or you've been spinning your wheels and it seems like nothing is shaking, nothing is moving, well, today this episode is for you. All right. We want to help you move and soar in purpose by understanding, unpacking the power of intentional habits. All right, let's go. So, what I want to do in this moment, I want to try to identify your current habits, like what habits are holding you back. Now, before I do that, I want to share with you all with Elevated Thoughts Academy. ETA has a tool called the house theory of habits, cycles, and patterns. If you will, allow me to explain this process with you. Now, with the house theory, we use an analogy of the construction or building of a house, right? I shared in my book, Potential to Purpose, how my wife and I, when we first came to our first home, we saw these big mounds of dirt. The lady we left came back, and now the dirt is smoothed out. Came back maybe 3, 4 weeks later, or maybe 3 weeks later, there's a slab, a concrete slab. Now, when I first looked at that process, in my mind, I'm thinking that's all there is to a foundation. I didn't know until I started researching a foundation and the process of building a house. Now, what I discovered was with the foundation, there are multiple parts to it, right? You have your footing. For some of y'all that's out there, you understand, you can get where I'm going with this. You have your footing, that's part of the foundation. You have your drainage system. You have your stem wall. You have your slab, and so forth. And there are other parts of part of this foundation, but those are the four parts I want to kind of focus on today in today's episode. Once again, you have your footing, you have your stem wall, you have your slab foundation, and then you have your drainage system. The footing is designed to transfer the weight of the entire house into the ground, right? I want y'all to keep that in mind. The footing is designed to carry or transfer the weight of the entire house into the ground. And then you have your stem wall, which is the same process, the same purpose is to transfer the weight of the house into the footing, into the ground. And then you have your slab. The concrete slab is designed to make sure the weight of equipment, appliances, furniture, those sorts of things are distributed evenly. Right, the weight is distributed evenly throughout the entire house into the ground. Right, and then you have your drainage system. The purpose of the drainage system is to make sure you remove moisture, water from beneath the foundation. If you don't have the proper drainage system, you can destroy your foundation. Moisture, it ruins, it destroys your foundation. All right, so that's the four parts of the foundation I wanted to kind of identify. And then when we move up, once again, we talk about the house theory of habits, cycles, and patterns. When we move up, now we look at the walls, right? We look at the load bearing wall. Now, the purpose of the load bearing wall is if you have multiple story home or building, the weight for the upper levels is transferred into the load bearing, down into the foundation, into the ground, right? So there's a purpose of the load bearing wall, which we identify as our cycle, right? So your foundation is considered your habits. Keep that in mind, and your cycle is considered the load bearing wall. When we get to the external of this house, like the hues, the colors, the windows, the doors, the roof, those things, that is considered your pattern. This is what individuals typically see when you're engaged. This is what we see when we're engaging with one another, right? We see their patterns. It's not often or all the time we see an individual's habit. It's their patterns that we see. It's their behavior. One way to help an individual change their habit, we have to target their patterns and their cycles. And then vice versa, if you want to change our cycles and patterns, you got to also target the habits, right? So once again, this episode is all about habits, but also I want to kind of explain cycles and patterns as well. Are your current habits holding you back? That's the question I want to pose in this moment. Now, you might be familiar with these sayings, the "I'll do it tomorrow" habit. Some of y'all can relate. We put off so much, and this falls under procrastination. We're procrastinating. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it maybe next week. I'll do it when I get around to it. What you're not aware of is your procrastination is disguised as planning. How many of you have been there where you say, I'm going to do something tomorrow. I'm not going to do it today. I'll get around to it. And we call it planning. Really, it's procrastination. We discovered that procrastination is also an enemy to purpose. Anytime you find yourself procrastinating on a thing, you'll never get it done. It will never get done. Another one, the always busy but never productive habit. How many been there? Like, it seems like you have so much going on. If I ask you, what are you doing? Oh, I'm busy, right? What do you have going on today? Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty busy today. And really what you're doing, you're filling your time with distractions instead of intentional actions. Man, I want to stop there for a moment because some of us we're great at creating or being productive in the wrong thing, or staying busy in the wrong thing. I'll say that, not productive. We're constantly busy, but it seems like nothing is getting done. We haven't moved towards our dream. We haven't moved towards our visions, and we're constantly being distracted instead of stepping into intentional actions. All right. I want y'all to be mindful because what's happening is you're going to start to recognize and notice that your cycles and your patterns, your behaviors is a direct connection and a response to your habits. A lot of times we're trying to change our cycles, change our patterns, but we haven't gotten to the root of the habit, which is the procrastination. It's important that we identify, we recognize what is really keeping us in a stuck place or what is keeping us from really accomplish those big dreams, accomplishing and reaching those goals. Let's talk about another one, scrolling your dreams away. That's another habit. And we're spending hours consuming content but never creating our own. Oh man. At one point in time in my life, I was guilty. I'm constantly looking at content creators, trying to call myself being inspired. And then months pass by, I haven't built out, I haven't recorded or anything, I haven't created any content, and I found myself falling further behind. Not knowing that while I'm binge watching or watching other people's life, they're moving in whatever purpose they feel they're moving in, while I'm still in a place of stuck because I'm scrolling my dreams away. You got to be careful. Don't get caught up in trying to consume so much content. I found out that consumption of content sometimes becomes your pursuit. You start falling into comparison. You feel like you're inadequate. You're not good enough. Some of you start copying other folks what they're building, and instead of building what you was called purpose to build, you're building what someone else was called and purpose to build. You have to be careful. The mindset on repeat habit. And what you're doing here, you're replaying the same limiting beliefs and excuses, and that was daily, right? You're replaying the same limiting beliefs. This is the mindset on repeat. Why you can't do a thing, why you can't accomplish your dreams, why you can't move and soar in purpose. In the previous episode of Inspired X Radio, we talked about excuses. Excuses for why you can't move, excuses for why you can't become great, you can't become successful, you can't elevate your mind. This is the habit that you find yourself in, the mindset on repeat type of habit, right? So I want to ask a question in this moment. What's one habit you know has been keeping you from stepping into purpose? What is that one habit that you feel every day, every single day? It doesn't fail. You find yourself in this same habit loop, this same cycle, this same pattern. What is that one habit? Man, what I love about James Clear, I do encourage y'all to read that book as well. James Clear has a book called Atomic Habits, and he talks about when it comes to planning and goal setting, it's not enough to just set goals, but you have to come up with a system behind your goals. But we also found out that broken habit, distorted habits, or negative habits are an enemy to goals. You cannot accomplish your goals when you haven't established more positive, productive habits. Habits is going to help you get to that next place, an elevated place, the elevated mindset. So you ask yourself, you start out with just one habit. What is that one habit that's keeping you in a place of stuck, keeping you from moving forward? Once you identify that habit, now we got to ask ourselves, how can I break free from this limiting belief? How can I change this habit so that I can actually become successful? So I can actually start taking massive action towards my aspirations, my visions, my dreams. So let's go back to the house theory real quick. So when it comes to the habits, the cycles, and the patterns, I said it before, that your foundation is your habits. Man, your cycle is the load bearing, the load bearing wall. And then the outside, the external of the house is considered your patterns, is your behavior, right? If you want to change your behavior, you want to change your patterns, you want to change your cycles, you have to change your habits. So I'm going to use this for example because I see coming into 2025, a lot of us are trying to lose weight. We're trying to live a fit life, right? A more healthier life. If you want to lose weight, you can't continue to fall into the habit of eating unhealthy foods. When it's time to work out, you decide to sit and binge watch your favorite show. That's a habit. You find yourself, when we talk about external and the hues, the colors, walls, or your patterns, being manifested through your life. So when people engage with you, they see a toxic lifestyle. It's a direct reflection to and response to the negative habits you are reinforcing. So when we talk about changing our habits, living a purpose-driven life, living a life in an elevated place, your habits is the key. Right, changing your habits, man. I remember when I began to shift my mindset and I started taking my journey serious, moving from potential to purpose through mindset elevation. I remember coming into 2024, I believe, and while everyone have these mantras and these New Year resolutions and what they're going to do, I told myself, you know what, this year I want to focus on mental health. Yep. I want to focus on mental health and because I want to take my mindset serious. If I want to be better for my family, if I want to be better for my community, if I want to be better in business, I have to take my mental health serious, right? And when I started to do that, I found myself changing those small habits. I started working out, and not saying that I've been perfect on this journey, but I've changed. I celebrate those small changes that I'm seeing in my lifestyle, right? I started thinking differently. I started having more confidence in me stepping into who I was called to be, whether it's speaking on stages, starting businesses, negotiating contracts, all that. It takes a confidence, right? And I found myself in a place where I started to see before I stepped into this confidence that there was this toxic limiting belief, there's this toxic narrative that I wasn't good enough. There was a toxic ideal that I wasn't called to this. Perhaps I don't have what it takes, right? And I kept reinforcing my actions were reinforced by my negative thoughts. And therefore, it didn't matter what I believe. We talked about this in the previous episode with the thought seeking model. It didn't matter what I believe. I would never get to more positive or fostering more positive thoughts or thinking if I'm reinforcing that belief with negative words, a negative self-talk. I didn't put no action behind it. Why? Because my habits kept me in this loop, in this cycle, in this place, in a stuck place. So I had to change my habit. Instead of talking negatively towards myself, I started speaking positive affirmation, speaking life over myself, right? And now I'm walking in a place with a confidence, with a power. I'm walking in transformation. I take my journey serious now. I take my mental health serious, right? But it not only take a made up mind, but you have to also target those habits that's keeping you in that place. What is that one habit that is keeping you from moving or stepping into purpose? Three steps I want to cover when it comes to understanding your habits, breaking free from negative habits, so you can walk and live a purpose life, right? So step one, awareness. You want to identify the habits that no longer serve you, right? You ask yourself, is this habit helping me or holding me back? Right? Me scrolling on Instagram, social media every day, is this helping me? Is it fueling my purpose? Is it causing me to move closer and closer towards my purpose? Now, some of you who are content creators understand you have to scroll on social media to be inspired. I do get that, but you have some individuals who are constantly on social media and there's no change, there's no evidence, there's no manifestation. Why? Because you fell into this habit loop of scrolling constantly, but there's no evidence of transformation and change in your life. So you become aware of what habits no longer serve you. Once you find those habits that no longer serve you, now you have to try to replace those negative habits with more positive habits, right? So for example, if you're sitting and you feel that you're bored, and you find yourself every time you're bored, you find yourself picking up your phone and scrolling on social media. Becoming aware of that, you can say, okay, I feel bored. Maybe I should pick up a book that's going to empower me, whether it's a real estate book, whether it's a book that's talking about finances, a book that's talking about transforming your mindset, moving from potential to purpose, the power of intentional thinking. Either way, I'm going to replace that negative habit of me scrolling constantly on social media, and I'm going to read and empower my mindset. I'm going to fuel and feed my mind. And you'll be surprised that what you're feeding, you're moving closer and closer. You're going to start to move closer and closer to shifting your mindset. Another thing you can start doing, and I do recommend this, man. I know Amazon have habit journals. I recommend keeping a habit journal for 3 days and track where your time, energy, and focus go. You'll be surprised when you start to look at, like, wait a minute, why did I spend 30 minutes doing that? Like, you start to really recognize, like, wait, I have to change my mindset. I have to change my habits, change my life. Now, it's very important. Once again, step one is awareness. If you never become aware of where you are in your mind, you'll never move, you'll never change. It's very important that you become aware. Step two, you want to disrupt the cycle, make it harder to fall into that old pattern. Uh, Something you can try to do is something I recommend doing is setting intentional boundaries. So, for example, no social media before noon. This is just an example. No social media. And some call it a fast. I don't know, but no social media before noon. I'm gonna be intentional about setting this boundary, and you'll be surprised because if you can do it before noon, you can find yourself taking a whole day with no social media, going without social media. And before you know it, you find yourself now, instead of social media having power over you, you have power over it. Instead of that habit having power over you, you now have power over that habit. You can block out focus time for growth activities. I said it before. You can read a book, watch a video, whether it's on YouTube University. You can learn something new, something that's going to fuel, empower, strengthen your mindset. And you'll be surprised once again when you're in that place, when you're intentional about setting boundaries, putting a focus time where you say, listen, this is a time block where it's going to be reading. I want to read something more productive, something that's more so in line with my purpose. You'll find yourself moving more and more towards changing that habit. In the third, and definitely not least, replace and reinforce. All right, you want to build habits that align with your purpose. So, for example, if you want to write a book by the end of 2026 or 2025, I'm sorry, if you want to read a book or write a book, what are those habits that's going to help me get to that goal or reach that goal? You want to build habits that align with your purpose of writing and completing your book by the end of the year. Start your day with a morning mindset check in. Some of us like to start with prayer. Anything that's going to help you become intentional about your focus and also intentional about how you move throughout the day. That's when you can gain power over your habits. Once you gain power over your habits, you can start to reinforce, you can start to create a mindset that's going to help you accomplish those goals. You start creating a mindset that's going to help you elevate and move from the place of potential to a place of purpose. I've said it before, block out focus time for growth activities and also align your environment to support your goals. Remove distractions, set up visual reminders. Sometimes you have to move from a physical location to change your habits. Yeah, I said again, sometimes you may have to remove yourself physically from a location, change your environment to change your habits. Right. So here's a thought I want to leave with you. If you don't control your habits will control you. I said it before. If you're trying to gain control of your habits, it's important that you identify the roots. Right. I said it before. Identify the roots of the habit. What is always keeping you in a place of procrastination? Let's identify the root of that habit. All right. If we're trying to reach our goals in 2025, we're trying to move from potential to purpose. We're trying to elevate our mindset. We have to identify those habits that's keeping us in a loop. Let me say this in this moment. It's important that we understand that habits shape our future. Man, every decision, every action, whether it's intentional or unconscious, is either moving us closer to our purpose or pulling us away, keeping us away. All right. So keep that in mind. Every action, your habits shape your future. If you were to take a snapshot of your daily habits, would they reflect the future you, right? The future self? Man, like even now I'm thinking, I'm like, man, what if I wrote a letter that identified my current habits to my future self? What would a letter entail? You'll be surprised. I've seen so many people around me successful, and it's because they changed their habits. Some of the people around me was able to obtain success, start businesses, reach financial goals. It's because of their habits. They started to change their habits. So I encourage anyone that's listening, it's important that we challenge those habits that's keep us in a place of stuck. Challenge those habits as an enemy to our purpose. That's an enemy to what we were called to, what we were called to build, what we were called to produce, what we were called to release into the earth. It's important that we challenge our habits, those toxic, negative habits. The reality is we all want to live a purpose-driven life, right? A purpose-centered life. Let's now foster the right habits. And we talk about changing your cycles, changing your patterns, our patterns and our cycles. If we want to change, we have to go to the root of the issue, which is our habits. All right. That's all I have for this episode of Inspire X Radio. Until next time, I want y'all to stay safe out there. I'm your host, Coach Sam Tolbert, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Y'all be easy.